Good afternoon. This is Talib Karim with Abe Legal, and I am delighted to be joined in our virtual studio. Let me just, all right. Some people say, "Hey, you're Abe Lincoln." I'm like, "No, I'm not Abe Lincoln, but I am with an app that has been built based upon Abe, and we like to wear cool bow ties that sometimes can get uneven." So again, Talib Karim here, CEO of Abe, and I'm excited about the opportunity today to be joined with a very interesting conversation about bankruptcy law as well as business formation law. So we're going to be talking about the idea of both creating a business from the very beginning and also, again, what happens when that business runs into trouble, especially during a pandemic. A lot of our businesses, it's expected at least 1/3 of them are going to have to close because of the pandemic. Because of, again, restaurants, for example, have had to close indoor dining, and it's so cold that they can't do outdoor dining. There are a number of other businesses that have been impacted. And so we have had a wonderful opportunity to have, as a member of the Abe legal counsel team, and that is the team of lawyers that is available, the team of lawyers that is available for our users day or night to answer questions and to help them solve problems. And one of this award-winning and acclaimed lawyers that is on our team is attorney Augusta Massey. Augusta is a business formation expert as well as a bankruptcy lawyer. Augusta, welcome to the Abe for President podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Talib, it's so great to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
And you know what? I just realized something, Augusta. You're going to actually have to turn on your mic after all, because the viewers won't be able to listen to you, even though I can. so you'll have to turn on your mic so the viewers can listen to you. All right.
All right. Let me see how to do that. And then you can tell me if you can hear me. Okay. So it says my mic is on.
Great. And you get to turn the volume up a little bit probably as well.
Okay.
Excellent.
Let's see if you can hear me now.
Okay, great. We can. So, again, we are having a wonderful conversation about both Abe and our platform of lawyers that is available for both families and businesses that are particularly challenged in this time, where we have about 50 million people who have been impacted financially by the pandemic. Some of them have been basically unemployed. And we also have, again, a challenge with some businesses having to close. And so where can you go to find help? Where can you go to get answers to questions that are legal in nature about how to keep afloat? And the place you can go is abe.legal. We have a platform that can put you in contact with a lawyer and help answer the questions that you might have day or night on how to keep your family or your business afloat. And again, one of the examples of the great wealth of talent that we have is currently with us, and that's attorney Augusta Massey. Augusta, tell us, where are you based right now, and how is your family coping in this pandemic? Augusta?
All right, so I am actually based in sunny Las
You're based in Las Vegas? Okay.
Vegas and we're doing our best to stay sheltered in and just indoors as much as possible. Our governor issued a new directive, so We are now in
we are now in
sheltering process whereby only capacity is open at restaurants and businesses. So
excellent.
25%
And
of capacity.
And you know what, Augusta, I think what we may have to do is go ahead and mute that phone. I'm at the phone, but mute your computer volume, and we'll just go using the phone, because I think I believe that our viewers can listen to your lovely voice on the the phone. Okay, so we are going to keep, and this is how we do. You know, a lot of people wonder, well, how does a startup go from again, an idea to becoming a $1 billion or $100 billion company like a DoorDash and or an Airbnb. Do you know that DoorDash started off by basically posting menus of one company, one or two restaurants online, and that's all they were just basically an order for two restaurants, and they weren't fancy or anything. All you had to do was you could see the menu and then call them, and then the co-founders would basically go and pick up your go and pick up the food and deliver it to you. So just as they had to kind of figure things out, we're figuring things out right now because we have an internet connection, so we're keeping it going. So Attorney Massey, you were saying you're based in Las Vegas, and how are businesses, particularly businesses related to the Las Vegas economy, how have they been impacted by COVID?
Right, so that's a great question, and I think it's a question that applies for all our listeners today. Businesses that have to do more with interaction with people and with the general public are seeing more suffering rather than companies who deal more with technology, right? And so the businesses that deal more with people, like restaurants, like our casinos, which our economy is really tied to our casinos, those places are feeling a higher impact. Usually at this time of the year, we would have a lot of visitors from all over the world. Unfortunately, right now, we cannot do that due to this novel virus that you may have heard of called COVID-19. And so our economy has really been impacted by that. The restaurants, people can't really go to restaurants as they once would, especially around the Thanksgiving holidays and Christmas. So those are just some of the things that are affecting it. So our economy has been really hit because we base a lot of what we do on gambling and on travel.
And with that in mind, have companies had to go out of business? Have you seen a spike in companies basically closing their doors there and filing for bankruptcy there in Las Vegas, or has there basically been ways that companies have kind of figured out how to keep the doors open?
So that's a good question, and it requires just like a law school exam, right? Some parts of a three-part answer, so to speak. So in the beginning, a lot of people, there was more of this upbeat, hope. And then when the stimulus checks started coming, that really helped out a lot for businesses and for small businesses especially, and even, casinos. But then as we've gone through the summer and now into the fall, and there's, there are talks about a stimulus check, but we haven't seen another one. And then, of course, the PPP loans have also dried up and stopped. So now I think people are beginning to feel the impact of no more federal aid. Right around, I want to say about September, October, we started seeing more spikes in terms of business bankruptcy filings. As of today, individual bankruptcy filings are actually on the downward trend. So only business filings there's been an uptick, but for us, that's an indication that individual bankruptcies are not too far behind. Because when you get businesses who are in trouble, that trickles down, right? Because payroll is affected, wages, income, all of those things are affected. So we are expecting there to be a increase sometime in the first quarter of next year in individual bankruptcy filings. As you can imagine, most of the businesses that are filing now or filed earlier where businesses who recognize that we are in trouble, we have a good business, we have a viable business, we have assets, but we have a lot of liabilities. And so we saw a lot of restructuring types of bankruptcies rather than a straight fire liquidation type of bankruptcies. You saw more people who were restructuring, trying to get a payment plan so that they could weather the storm over the next couple of years.
Now, can you dive in a little bit deeper? Because most people think of bankruptcy as basically giving up and not having basically essentially anything else after they file to basically do with the business. Are you saying that's not the case? Can you tell us basically the differences between the two types of bankruptcies, and again the differences between bankruptcies for businesses versus bankruptcies for individuals?
Thank you, and that's a great question. So no, you don't give up everything when you file for bankruptcy. It really depends on what chapter of the bankruptcy code you choose. So just think about it like, you go to McDonald's, there's the number one, you can get fries with your meal, and there's number two, you can say I want that a la carte. So it just really depends on what kind of bankruptcy you file. Mm-hmm. But for our viewers today, I'll say the three most important ones are chapter 7, chapter 13, and chapter 11. So for chapter 7, usually individuals file this. You have to qualify and pass something called the means test. It's based on how much income you make, and we do it a couple of ways, right? You look at your paycheck, your pay stubs, other sources of income that you may have every month. And so we'll look at that. And in chapter 7, you don't lose everything. The law allows you to keep certain things because we're not like back in the day where you owe someone and you become, that person's property or, be out on the streets. The law does allow you to keep things like your house and your car, things that allow you to keep on living day to day. And that's why you need a professional so that you don't lose rights that you possess. And that's why coming to Abe Legal and using the platform, you can find a good attorney that can assist you with that. Now, in chapter 11 and 13, allow you to keep your assets, but then work out a repayment plan to pay your creditors over a certain period of time, which could be 3 to 5 years. So you look at your income, you make enough such that you do not qualify for a chapter 7, but then you still need help because you're not able to make all your bills every month. So you have a little, but it's not stretching very far, or it's not covering everyone. Chapter 13 for an individual is the same as a chapter 11 for a business. Will help you restructure. It will help you go in and say, hey, I have this amount of money. I have all these creditors. I need the interest rates to stop. I need the bills to stop piling. I can gather this amount of money and pay them all off in 3 to 5 years if we stop now. So that's really the difference between both. And so bankruptcy is not this big boom, that blows up everything out of the water. It can actually help you to not just survive, but thrive.
So basically, if I come to Abe and I do a consultation with you, then do I have to memorize those chapters, or should I just give you what I'm facing, and then you can give me the options that I can choose from? Is that what happened?
Yes, that's an accurate statement. You say, hey, this is my life, this is where I am, and then we work together to then figure out what will be the perfect chapter for you.
And how long does it take to either go through one approach or the other? So if I'm facing a situation where I'm about to lose my home because I am, let's say 5 or 6 months behind in my mortgage payments, what can I expect in terms of the time?
Great. So if you are, let's say you come, let's just walk through a scenario because it usually just makes the drive home, right? So you come to me and you say, hey, I need to stop this foreclosure on my house. I'm not sure what I qualify for yet, but we can figure it out. I need to file something. I need to get something on file. We can actually file something the same day. We can actually file a document. It's called an emergency petition of bankruptcy, and we can file it today. And once that is in place, it stops the foreclosure. Everything stops.
Oh, wow. Hold on. So let's stop. Let me make sure this is big news. So if you are somebody and I know that there are tens of millions of people who are behind in their note payments for their mortgage. So they're facing foreclosure right now. And we know that some of the moratoriums are set to expire. And maybe you can talk a little bit about this at the end of this year and which moratoriums are set to expire versus what. But if you are in either of these categories, and if you're facing, again, risk of your home being taken, that by, again, going to abe.legal and asking to get to get an appointment with a bankruptcy attorney like Attorney Massey, you can stop that foreclosure. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can.
Wow.
You can. And you can stop it, like I said, on the same day. It's something called an emergency petition for bankruptcy. You can file it on the same day. What we like to do in our office is notify your creditors then. It stops the foreclosure sale. It stops, whatever is going on. It stops it all. But then
how about a car repossession? Will it prevent your car from being repossessed as well?
Absolutely. It stops the car from being repossessed. It stops any and all creditor activity. So it stops your car from being repossessed. It stops a judgment. It stops wage garnishment. It stops a lot of things. And so what will then happen is the clock starts ticking. You have 14 days now to get the rest of your documents into the court system, and you proceed from there. The bankruptcy courts just approved a new law, which will go into effect by first quarter of next year, where there is now a program within your Chapter 13 bankruptcy that can allow you to restructure your debt for your house. So there are many different options in the bankruptcy that can enable you to save your home. The great thing about this program is the MMP program is that it allows a pair of eyes, a judge, a federal judge looking at this process and what happens. So there's greater accountability. A lot of the shenanigans you see outside of bankruptcy don't happen because there are federal penalties and statutes for you not following the rules. So it holds everyone accountable. And then you have a trusted, vetted mediator that can help you and your lender come up with solutions for you to save your house.
Now, let me ask you also in terms of the impact on your credit, because on the one hand, you're talking about garnishments, and that's basically something that would impact, your credit score if your wages are ever garnished. But then a bankruptcy also impacts your credit score. Can you talk about that? Because I think that's a bit confusing for people.
Yes. And so how I like to liken this is think about a faucet. Do you want to turn on your faucet and allow it to drip, 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 drip until it fills your cup? Or do you just want to turn it on, fill your cup, and go? And the reason I use that analogy is when you have like a wage garnishment or those bills that hit your credit report every month that says not paid or unpaid or whatever, you're going through a drip process. When you file for bankruptcy, it hits your credit hard, but then you come to like a ground zero and you can only go up from there, right? So once you file for bankruptcy, it levels everything out, all the payment stuff, all the activity stuff, there's no more reporting. And so besides the bankruptcy, right? So you're not getting every month unpaid or, behind payments. So from there, you can then build your you can then build your credit score going up, whereas the other ones just keep whittling away and affecting your score every time. I've seen clients build up their bankruptcy score to high levels using greater and better financial activities in 18 months.
18 months. Now, so
yes.
You mean to say that a person, so give me some numbers. I mean, just some kind of credit score numbers. So a person can go from like having a pretty decent score of around, let's say 600 or 700, and then you go to a bank. I mean, you're getting behind in your bills, so you start getting a hit on your I'm saying bankruptcy score, but
your credit
score. So you start getting a hit on your credit score. Generally, when you start taking hits in terms of late payments and stuff like that, how many points does that cause your credit score to go down per late payment?
So I don't know the internal workings. What I can tell you, let me give you a concrete example of a client of mine, right?
Okay.
And so before bankruptcy, their credit score was, a little bit high. Then they fell behind. They started, falling further and further behind. I think her score dropped down to early 500s, closed down in the 500s. And then after bankruptcy, within 18 months, she was in the 700 category.
So you said that the bankruptcy brought her score down to the low 500s, or was her late payments and stuff like that? Did that bring her?
So her late payments brought her down to 500. So by the time she filed for bankruptcy, that's where she was, right? Really, really, really low. After the bankruptcy, I can't remember how far down it fell, but at the end, in 18 months, she was back in the 700s.
Wow.
So all those bills were done with. All of that was cleared. She got out like a small little loan payment thing and was making her payments on time. So that was getting reported. That kept increasing her score. She instituted a couple of other things, was aggressive in trying to get some of those old reports that were inaccurate to fall off. Doing all those combination of things, she was back in the 700s. In 18 months, she qualified for the house, doing well.
Now, do you help the clients you work with to actually write those letters, to get those negative and adverse credit reportings off of their credit history and their credit reports?
Right. We have a partner that works with our clients, those who choose to. We do have a partner that we send them to and works with them in making sure that they resolve those errors in their credit report, which allows their scores to go up.
And altogether, that takes about 18 months, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, on the average, is 18 months. I mean, everybody has their own, circumstances and stuff, but the average we've seen is 18 months.
Now, tell me about, how much money can somebody expect? I know that when a client comes on, either if they're an individual client, you're looking at about $350 for the consultation with Abe, or $500 for a business client. But after that initial consultation, overall, how much are we looking at from the standpoint of an individual family versus a business who needs a bankruptcy?
Okay, so that's a great question, and there are a lot of factors that go into that. One is your location, right? Depending on where you live, different markets do different things. So I'll talk about it from the perspective of my market, which I feel is a good indicator of a lot of markets. And then the other thing that goes into that calculation is what chapter of bankruptcy are you filing? Are you filing a 7, a 13, or an 11? So if you are filing a Chapter 7, Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which means it's a straight up, I'm going to get rid of all my debts. I'm keeping the assets that the law allows me to keep. I'm walking away from all these debts and stuff in 4 to 6 months, and I am, I'm done. That typically goes from $999 all the way to about $2,000, and that is attorney's fees and your filing fees. Filing fees are about $338. It just went up in December. So you're looking at in that range. I would say 1,200, 1,500 is usually more apt. There are other people who do $999 at the low end of the spectrum to the highest end of the spectrum at around 2,000. What I tell people is, I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm in bankruptcy. Where do you think I'm going to get that kind of money? I always say, you always look at what are you gaining? What is the return on that investment? If you pay $2,000, $1,500, and you wipe away hundreds of thousands of debt, I think it's a good return on that investment. It's a good swing.
And I was just thinking, like, if a person goes into bankruptcy, that means the money that they've been paying on their house note, they don't have to pay it right now. So that means that the money that they would normally, let's say the $2,000 to $4,000 that they might be paying in their note, they could use to pay you, and then you basically and so they don't have to pay that at this point. Isn't that the way they move it around?
Some people do that, and some people just don't have it. So there's nothing in the law that says you can't save a little bit. Some people are not already paying, or they have maybe tried to offer payment to their landlord, and their landlord says, no, I don't accept, partial payments. So they take that money and pay a lawyer instead to get in the situation and actually help them resolve some of these things. So that's a way people get money different ways. And I always say, if it's something that's important to you, somehow we always find a way to get it done. And then the return on investment at the end of the day, especially if you need that help. I really sincerely believe that bankruptcy is not for everybody. There are clients that I have turned away and said bankruptcy is not right for you. You need better financial tools and ways of, using your money properly. So we're not really in the business of just give me your money. We really try to ensure that those who are filing bankruptcy actually need it. And that is why there was a lot of changes in the Act in 2005 to ensure that there's no abuse of the system. So that's for Chapter 7, which applies for a lot of people. For Chapter 11, you're looking at way more money, especially for small businesses. You don't go into a Chapter 11 unless you really need it, because some lawyers do charge by the hour. But if you were doing a Chapter 13 as an individual, you're looking at between $3,000 and $5,000. A lot of that money is paid through your plan, spread over the 3 to 5 years.
And again, the second chapter is the liquidation, or is that the restructuring? Which one are you talking about?
So the 13 is the restructuring. Okay. 7 is liquidation. So 7, if you're liquidating, you're looking at about $1,500, thereabouts to $2,000. If you were doing a restructuring in the 13, you're looking at about $3,000 to $5,000.
And what are the benefits of doing a liquidation versus structure? So if I have, this, note on my house, or paying my car note, liquidating the debt means basically eliminating. I don't have to pay it anymore, or in the restructure is just kind of coming up with a payment plan. Is that the difference, or can you explain what the difference is?
Yeah, so almost likely. So if you're doing a liquidation and you own a house, if you are not able to pay that, you're walking away from that house. So you will no longer have the house, but you no longer have the debt. So let's say you had a house that was, $100,000, and you had only paid, $20,000 down. You only have $80,000. What bankruptcy allows you to do is walk away from that house without having to pay the $20,000. If you had done that outside of the bankruptcy, they could still come after you, right? They could sell the house for, $60,000, and so now there's a shortfall of $20,000, which the law allows them to come after you for that shortfall.
Right.
So you think about the last recession, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of people lost their homes, housing prices fell. So a house that was $300,000 is now worth $150,000. But you had paid it to the extent that you had $270,000 balance. Those who walked away outside of bankruptcy and that house was sold now owe the bank $120,000. If you had filed for bankruptcy, you don't have the house anymore, but you don't owe $120,000 to boot. So that is how that saves you money, or saves you. So even though you don't have the house, you also don't have this judgment hanging against you where they can come after your personal assets. Now that is a step. So you walk away, but you also walk away from the house, and you walk away from whatever debt or whatever shortfall might happen in the future once they sell the house.
So basically, if you really want to keep in your house, if you want to keep the house, then you're not looking for a liquidation. What you want to do is basically stop the actual, repossession or the foreclosing until you can basically develop a payment plan to kind of get yourself out of the hole that you might have dug, yourself in because of, for example, the pandemic, losing your job or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
That is exactly correct. And that is why having that consultation in the beginning and saying, here's my situation, here's what I'm trying to do. I really want to keep the house. This is where I'm at. Sitting down with your attorney and being honest and open about those factors will help you craft a plan that will help you achieve that goal.
Now tell me, some people again are looking at bankruptcy as a way out, either Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or is it Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 for businesses? Is that the differences?
So Chapter 7 or 13 for individuals, people like you and me, and Chapter 11 for businesses.
Okay, so it's either Chapter 11 or Chapter 13 for business, right? 11 being liquidation, 13 being restructuring, right?
No, 11 for business is just like a 13 for an individual.
Okay.
They're both restructuring.
They're both restructuring. Okay. So it's not liquidation or it's only one chapter basically for a business.
So for a business, if you were going to liquidate as a business, you would do a 7 as well. So you'll do anything liquidation is 7 for individuals and the business. If you were a business trying to restructure, then you use an 11. If you're an individual trying to restructure, then you use the 13.
Ah, okay. So again, I'm back in law school. Chapter 7 for both business and individual individual and business liquidation, and chapter 13 for a individual restructuring, and a chapter 11 for a business restructuring. Did I get that, Professor?
And it's correct. You got an A.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm feeling very good. I think my law school professor back at Howard will be very pleased that you've given me a refresher, Professor Massey. So with that, another idea that some people have thought about in terms of, again, getting themselves out of the hole is, again, I've lost my job, or, I had a business that had to basically close down. But I'm good at sales, and I think I could, come up with another business. What are some of the techniques that you've seen people take to basically get themselves out of the hole by forming a new business, and how can people go about doing that if they had a consultation with you?
Okay, if you don't mind, can you give me that scenario one more time?
So again, if I'm basically facing foreclosure, and I've lost my job, but I have a good idea of creating an app, or I have basically some artwork that I think I can sell and make a lot of money, or if I can launch a consulting business. What ways are people coming to you and launching businesses as a way of making money to kind of keep themselves afloat? In kind of as a substitute to the jobs that they might have lost, and how easy or how difficult is it to create a new business?
Okay, so I'll talk about our perspective here. So a lot of clients who come and want to start a business so they can make extra money or something to support their income. The first thing I would say is it depends on what your goal is, right? Are you is this just something you're doing on the side? It's a side business, or is this something that you're doing as your sole means of income? Right? And what is the level and risk of exposure? Okay. So if you're doing something like, I'm going to open a restaurant, this is going to be like my main income, my main, way of making money, I might suggest that you form like an LLC, just so that you have that extra level of protection. If you said, hey, Augusta, all I'm just really trying to do is just make a little bit money on the side, I'm going to be selling art, selling jewelry, that sort of thing, but the volumes are enough that it will be able to augment my income, I would say go ahead and start a sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorship doesn't give you the same level of protections as an LLC, but then there are some documents you probably want to have in place to protect yourself. So let's say you're selling art, right? And it's beautiful art that has intrinsic value, and art is one of those subjective things, right? You and the buyer and the seller, the buyer really puts the value on that. You could have a document that says, all sales are final, indemnifying yourself, so have some indemnification language, this is a one-time.
And you would help me to come up with that type of language that I could put on my website.
Absolutely.
So then they couldn't come back and say, well, I want my money back.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So you would work with an attorney like myself, someone at Abe Legal, to create those languages and to go about starting up your business as a sole proprietor or as a LLC. And just put it out there, not to plug Abe, but I feel like the greatest value that Abe Legal can give you is in the consultations. Because a lot of people, you don't know what you don't know, right? And you don't know what the pitfalls are. So sitting down with an attorney who can say, here's what you're trying to do, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? These are the hidden doors you didn't know about. I think that is so, so valuable, because things don't go wrong, they start wrong. And I always say that your foundation is everything. So things don't go wrong, they start wrong because you didn't get the right information, the right piece of and so those are things you want to watch out for.
And tell me, when you are looking at starting a business, can you, as a lawyer, also help us to identify possible grants that might be available or contracts with the federal government, and how do you go about doing that?
Okay, so it's a great question because I always believe in self-development, and I'm always finding or looking for ways how I can help my clients. So I keep my ear pretty close to the ground in terms of what is out there for grants, for packages, things that can actually help businesses. So for clients that I do work with, if that's a question they have, there are resources for that. I actually am going through a process to learn how to do federal grants right now. So it's something I'm learning because, especially after the pandemic, there has been a huge uptick of people who are getting into SAM. SAM is what it's called. It's I forgot what the acronym stands for, but it's SAM, and it's where you need to be if you want to be a federal contractor, so you can get federal grants. So I'm actually going through a process right now where I'm learning, all the language and what that's about. Your PTAC, P-T-A-C. Every single state should have a PTAC office. That is a great place for you to get started on the journey of learning how to become a federal contractor. If you're a minority, there are set asides just for minority. If you're a minority and a woman, you now get into an extra box where there's money. If you're a woman, there's also a certification for that. So minorities, women, if you check both boxes, that's even better. There's money set aside just for us to do business with the government. And I've seen all kinds of stuff in there, from janitorial services, which is really huge, to technology, to photography, all kinds of things that you don't even think about. The government buys everything. If you're selling it, the government is buying it. It's just understanding the process, how it works, and being positioning yourself to get those contracts.
Well, I'm really excited about the opportunity that you have really kind of outlined as really a way that people can get themselves out of trouble and get themselves out of a bind with the type of challenge that we're facing. Clearly, it is something that a lot of people are struggling with, right? Everybody is faced with the challenges, both people who are very wealthy and people who are not so wealthy. And I think that the idea of again, what Abe offers is an opportunity for it offers an opportunity for, again, people to really have a chance to get insight with extremely intelligent people like yourself, who are experienced at solving problems, such as people facing the possibility of them being kicked out of their homes, or having their cars repossessed, or having their businesses taken over, or having lawsuits filed against them. They have the ability to save their finances, and in fact, as you said, in just about a year and a half, go from again, a low 500 or maybe high 400 up to the 700s in terms of a credit score. I mean, what do you believe going forward? What can you predict based upon the incoming administration? As we're here based in Washington, D.C., what do you think is on the horizon for people who are again out there struggling, or looking at some of these options you just talked about? Do you think that the new administration is likely to bring about some change, or is it going to be much of the same?
I think to answer that, it's a loaded question. It's a loaded question, and I say that because a lot of it is dependent on what happens in Georgia. I really feel that Georgia is the critical piece to all of this. If you have a united government, which means that, the Senate is controlled by the same party as the executive branch. I think that you will see a whole lot more faster changes, and you will see a lot of more legislation passed that I feel will help everyday individuals and businesses. Big business might be in trouble because I feel like there will be more regulation and more legislation than we have seen in the last 4 years. But I think as general Americans, I think there will be a lot to look forward to in the next administration. I mean, if you think about individuals who deal with a lot of businesses, you could see information and legislation regarding wages, in containment of COVID-19, distribution of the vaccine, and all of that. If you were in technology, if you're in the technology space, expect to see a lot of legislation regarding trade policies, our immigration policies, visa and stuff. A lot of tech companies use international and overseas labor force for that. So it really just depends, I think, on what industry you are, what happens in the elections in Georgia. If we have, let's say the Republicans win, and now we have a divided government, I think we're going to see more of the same that happened during Obama's administration, where there was always this gridlock, there was always this pushback, and the only way things will get passed or done will be with a lot of executive orders as well.
Well, it's interesting that you say that in terms of the executive orders being possibly used by this incoming administration. However, it seems to me that, there are a lot of policies that are even coming out of the problem solvers caucus, right? That would be of benefit to both small business owners and families alike. For example, as you might know, on the Republicans end, they were willing to offer $1.9 billion or $1.9 trillion worth of stimulus before the election, but it was the Democrats that were basically dragging their feet. And now, again, but the bipartisan, caucus is looking at a $900 billion package, right now. So it seems to be, again, from a business or a family perspective, that there's definitely blame to be made, and even some credit to be given on both sides. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. And I think it's somewhere in the middle. I feel like a lot of what's going on is just indicative of how far we have fallen into bipartisan politics, and the American people are missing in that equation. So if we all it's somewhere in the middle, right? Like if everyone can refocus, I think that there is a lot that can be gained, and if both parties can work together, the American people will be the better for it.
And I would ask, as you conclude, what are some of the last pointers that you might offer to people out there who are struggling and who are looking at both the ability to create new businesses as well as those who are trying to keep their businesses afloat? What are some of the kind of last points that you might be able to share with them?
Okay, so I'll say three things. I think there's hope. I always say there's always hope as long as you're living. We recovered after, the Great Depression. We recovered after 9/11. We will recover after this. I just believe that is a given fact. And so have hope. Things will always get better. Sometimes it looks darkest before the dawn. The second thing I would say is be flexible. Be willing to roll with the punches and be able to pivot and adapt as quickly as you can. I think being nimble and flexible to adapt to whatever comes in the future will be a great plus for individuals and businesses alike. And then lastly, I will say the future is digital. If you're in the job market looking for a job, or if you're someone looking to start a new business, anything that can be done online or go digital, I think those are where the gold mine and the opportunities are now.
Well, I think that you have really given us a wonderful overview of the opportunities that are out there. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate you taking your time. And clearly you've been one of the best legal analysts that we've heard on Abe yet, and we have a whole lot of them. So congratulations to you. We wish you and your family well, and we hope that all of those folks out there, be they business owners or people who are struggling with the finances as individuals who have yet to open up a business. But those who, again, are facing some, again, possible foreclosures on their cars, or possible, or repossessions of their cars, or foreclosures on their homes, or perhaps eviction on homes that they don't own. We hope that you will take advantage of at least the consultation, because as Attorney Massey mentioned, there are actual grants that are available right now to prevent evictions or foreclosures that you may be able to qualify for if you knew about them. And again, our team at Abe is working day or night to study them so they can offer them to you. And again, all you have to go to is abe.legal to get that type of help. And you don't have to worry about, the hassles of scheduling and calling the lawyer to make sure that they're available. You don't even have to leave your home. You can actually get a consultation over the phone or actually online now. So everything is done online. You don't have to even leave your home. You can get a consultation online via Zoom. Or over the phone if you don't have a stable internet connection, and you can get your questions answered, and you can get the solutions to the problems that you're facing. And again, Attorney Massey is an example of the world-class lawyers that we have available to you, waiting to take your questions and to solve your problems. So again, Attorney Massey, we really appreciate you. We wish you and your family well, and we look forward to again having another great conversation with you and other outstanding lawyers. And again, if you want to have any questions answered, you can go and basically ask a question in the comments. You can like this conversation, and you can subscribe to this channel so you can get an update on all of the upcoming Abe for President conversations with all of our outstanding lawyers. So again, congratulations, Attorney Massey, and we look forward to having more conversations with you and our subscribers in the days and weeks to come.
Thank you so much, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you so much. You too. Ciao.